guys, we're late. Welcome everyone. Now I've worked digital meetup. So glad you guys are here. It is CeeLo Green's birthday.
Oh, you didn't make me guess. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. We have so much to talk about today that we don't have time for that stuff right now. But yeah, we've got so much to talk to and get on. But sorry we were late. We were in the green room and we joined in the green or when I joined the green room, the first thing I saw was this. Jess
Me.
holding the phone up to her ear, saying, "You cannot pierce my daughter's ears without my permission first." And I was like, "What the heck is going on?" So
Uh,
that was interesting. Right before we got started.
it's the last Friday of school. It's lunch hour. And yes, I told Kaylin, do not pierce Bailey's ears during lunch. I need to go do something for an hour. Don't pierce her ears.
Now, is Kaylin the same age as your daughter?
Yes. Yes.
So you actually told another girl that's the same age as your daughter not to pierce your daughter's ears.
Yeah. At lunch in the seventh grade.
Sounds like nothing could go wrong
Nothing.
in this scenario.
I love Kaylin. But she's going to be the one. She is the one. I recognize Kaylin.
So we have some great people in the room here. Chris tried to pierce his ear.
Brian Hackett is
Chris,
here.
Ice Cube, eighth grade, ice cubes and a sewing needle. Blows my mind how these kids don't mind piercing each other. Ugh.
I know. I know.
Just the way that that's worded, piercing each other is not nice.
Yeah.
Or it
I
doesn't
might
sound
have,
nice.
I think I did my second hole myself. I don't remember. It's not that uncommon. I also ironed my hair on an ironing board because I didn't have a flat iron. We do weird stuff when we're kids, Jason.
My friends pierced almost all of my ears. Like, how many ears? How many?
How many? I have
Like,
three, two, one. I had one up here.
wow. Look at this. This is quite the interesting topic that we
I
got.
gave people piercing glares in grade school. I don't know what that means, but I like that. All the piercings. Haha.
Okay, enough.
Okay.
That's more than I wanted to go to in this topic. May 30th, 2025. Welcome everyone. We're not talking about yeah, put in the chat how many piercings. No, we're not gonna do that. Um uh Welcome everyone. I'm glad you're here. We always start the digital meetup the same way. Green, yellow, red. How are you today? Green, great. Yellow, so-so. Red, not so good. I think that based on all of the news that we see every day in our industry, it's probably more important than ever to think of human. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe we should start asking our agents that join, like Hackett's agent, how it is today, if it's green, yellow, red. I wonder if agents are ever yellow or red. Thoughts?
Um, I saw somebody post something about the emotional intelligence of AI the other day, and somebody bit back at them in the comments like AI doesn't have emotional intelligence. That could be a topic for another day.
It definitely could be a topic for another day. Yes. We have mostly greens. Do agents dream? That's interesting. Only Steve Jewell would ask such a question like that. Yeah. Uh, but Mostly yellow. Do agents
Christy, if
feel
you have jet
possible?
lag from PTO, I would argue that it's better than jet lag from business travel. I hope
Yeah, I
you
don't
went.
even know if that really counts as yellow. I mean, I'm sorry.
Tired can be yellow, yeah.
It still counts. Green made a delicious blueberry cobbler this week. Just enjoyed it.
Wow,
Wow, I like that. Thanks for sharing. Jess, you?
I'm green.
My gosh.
I'm green. Uh, this week went fast. This is the first week I haven't been on the road in a number of consecutive weeks, and I was so excited to just nest and sit down and breathe and make dinner. And like, I don't know where this week went. I didn't get anything done that I thought I would get done, but I didn't have to get on a plane, which was a nice little break.
Nice. Good. Wow. This has been a really busy week. Busy, but I don't really know what I got done either. But yeah, I am I'm green, and I think I'm yellow, and I think I'm red. I think
Oh,
all. I think I'm all
wow.
today. No one's ever answered that way, have they? Like I
No,
don't know if I have to give an answer. I think there's different parts of my life where there's a different color um today. I
very
guess, but guess what? If I had to put it all together, I'd say it blends to green.
good.
I'm just gonna say green.
Good.
Yeah,
Was like,
trailblazer. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I wasn't like bragging that I was the first one to say green, yellow, red, but I was just thinking about which I'd be at different parts of my life. Brown. Thanks, Brad. So next thing we do, one big thing. And there's lots of big things, I think, that everyone has this week. By the way, for those of you that don't, follow myself or Jess on Substack, we do some Substack stuff too. We just did a live Substack a little bit earlier today,
was a
uh,
good test.
on a topic that was a media headline today. Basically saying that 30 to 40 to 50% of all of the jobs in the world are going to go away in the next few months. I think it was a little
Boy, we love a good headline.
exactly. Yeah, the media loves getting it. I bet that got lots of clicks though, didn't it? I mean, it got
For
us all
sure.
talking. So definitely got lots of
There's nuggets. I mean, there's nuggets like, yes, like don't throw away headlines for nothing. There's nuggets of things. It's like I said in the live, the weather vane seems like it swings wildly sometimes, but look a little bit bigger, look to broader climactic trends. There is something to be paid attention to within that headline that is legit.
yes.
Uh, so I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it. Yeah, I didn't know they had a live option either. We might test that going live in the Substack community still here. But anyway, it's fun to test new things and see where we can get the most uh, community building
Engage,
and engagement.
engagement. Yeah, I just put the link into the chat of the video this morning. So you'll see we're probably still wearing the same clothes, maybe not. But anyway, it was good for those of you that joined live. Thanks for joining. And we want to do more of those where we can not just every Friday, we have a very structured. Can't believe I just said that. Every Friday, very structured. That's not you and I. But this is more live. Hey, there's some interesting news. Let's talk about it, and let's get a bunch of other people on who are really, really smart in the community to talk about it as well. So if you guys aren't part of Substack, I think it's a fascinating platform. In fact, I was on it the other day, and Jess, you know who popped up?
Who?
Katie Couric.
Really? Doing like what?
She's doing her like a live news show on Substack now.
Really?
Yeah, like, do you remember Katie Couric?
I totally do.
Yeah, like I completely
A
forgot
bit.
her. I
Every
completely
once in a while, this shows up somewhere in the internet. The bit where Katie Couric and her co-hosts talked about the internet for the first time. Do you remember that bit?
yes, yes, that
Yeah.
is a great bit. I love that bit. Like,
I mean, it wasn't a bit then, and now it's a
right.
bit.
Yeah, that is. I'll love to find that. Someone can find it. I can't do that while I'm talking to you at the same time. Do you want to talk about your one big thing? I have a really interesting one big thing. But go
Well,
ahead.
my one big thing, when I texted you about it earlier this week, your response was OSM. My OBT is an oh shit moment. And that is that my 16-year-old got her driver's license. She was so nervous. It was so cute. I asked ChatGPT, what are the 5 things she absolutely needs to know for the Minnesota road test? And what are the things that most people fail? And it said hill parking, up and down, like which way to angle your tires, parallel parking, obviously, a 90-degree turn into a spot, backing into a spot, and something else, lane management or merging or something. And so we left an hour early and I quizzed her on everything. Here's a hill, park, down, up, and it was like a crash course in everything that we hadn't practiced yet. She opened the car door and she was fanning herself with the door. She's like, I'm so nervous, Mom, I'm so nervous. And I said, now just throw away everything. You're a great driver. Like you've been driving you're a great driver. I let her drive when she was 8 in my lap. And she's like, or drive the lawnmower. She's a great driver. I said, just forget everything, throw it all out the window and just lock into You're a great driver. And she passed with flying colors. She's so excited. And now
Yeah,
I'm,
congratulations. I mean, my oh shit moment around it was basically like I need her on my life 360.
I know.
Not to track where she's at, but so that I don't have to go around her. Like I don't want to be
Right.
anywhere near where she's at. So if I
Yeah.
can add her to my family's life 360, that would be awesome.
Yes. We'll see if she'll grant that permission. She's a little feisty. She keeps turning it off for me. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
you
doubt
don't
that more
drive
people.
without
I
that
doubt
thing
she's gonna
on.
give it to me. Hey, guys, I completely forgot. We need your one big thing also. I would just jump right to Jess's, but because I was actually thinking about mine. Oh, thank you,
I
John.
love it.
John, I saw your picture. I love that photo. Syracuse, new house, great, great school. Something that my 17-year-old's looking at also, by the way. And so that's congratulations, John. And then John watched a telecast of Zurich Opera. It was a bucket list item. 4 operas in 14 hours. Whew. Yeah, my son recommended. I was in New York City this week, and my son recommended a podcast, and I put it on 2x speed because I couldn't sit still for 20 minutes. So
Oh,
the fact that John sat still for 14 hours, that's crazy. Senior prom and 18th birthday, awesome. Started leash training with my.
are you kidding
Sometimes
me?
I just read without pre-reading. Leash training with a cat.
Are you so JC? That by the way, if you were on a couple weeks ago, this was Lavender who we met, but Lavender has a new name. And now I need to know if you actually plan on walking your cat, JC.
Don't even don't I that's come on, Jess. That's not even worth talking about. I'm sorry, it
In
is
the
worth
chat, in
talking
the
about.
chat.
Yes, in the
We're-
chat. Yeah. Leash training a cat. Have you heard of such?
Yeah, my neighbor used to walk their cat. It's
On a
weird.
leash?
Yes, it was so weird.
So, oh my God, this is a goofy show.
I know. Oh, Charlotte, just you wait.
Yeah. So I like have a couple big things. If I don't, if well, just
Yes.
that's it goes back to the red, yellow, green. So I'm gonna tie them together. So um one of my best friends, who I play tennis with almost every Saturday, is in the hospital with a coronary issue.
Oh.
And um yeah, a little bit worried about it. Like he kicks my ass in tennis, and he definitely outruns me all the time. But for whatever reason, he's in the hospital with a coronary issue, and I'm sitting here drinking my Gorilla Mind
Mm.
energy drink, which could get me there as well. But so anyway, that's I'm a little bit red because of that. Yellow, I had a really interesting. Some of you may. Oh, Lucas, that's awesome to see. Applied for a new job. Congratulations. Finger crossed. I'm gonna cross both my fingers. I
Wow.
don't know how to cross just one, but fingers crossed. I had a really fascinating conversation with my mom on Saturday of last week, where I got on the line. She was crying.
Mm.
I was like, interesting. She said, "I've made the decision. It's time to move out of my house."
Oh,
So she's lived
this
in
is
the
what you
same house.
wanted, right? She arrives
Yes,
here.
she's
No.
lived in the same house for 50 some years. My dad passed away a long time ago. And like she's finally made that decision. But the tears and the like, this is so emotional. And she said, I finally realized I just can't take care of it myself anymore. And I said, well, we could hire people to take care of it. She said, it's not that. Just the stuff I want to do on my own, I can't
Mm,
do anymore. And it really but that's why it's yellow, because it's like really sad in a way. But at the same time, it's really good in a way.
mm,
Um, because I always wanted her, what she's 83. I've always wanted her to do it before it got too far along in her aging process. Um, but at the same time, it's hard. After that's where you hung your hat and raised your family for 55 years. So
oh.
little bit yellow there. And then green, um, I'm green because I think that this week the headlines around everything from job displacement, I shouldn't say that that makes me green, but job displacement to transformation of businesses to how organizations are thinking about not just starting with tech, as much, but starting with reinventing themselves.
Mm.
I love the conversation. I really, really think there's been some great conversations this week, and it's not just because, I was part of them and fire starting some of them. I tried to write a post last night about how I felt. Um, and I think we're on the way to changing HR.
Mm.
I think if someone asked me for a seminal week, uh, or let's just say a seminal month, I would like to put
Interesting.
May 25 as my seminal month, as when the HR function changed forever. Uh,
Mm.
the start of when it changed forever, just in some of the news, in some of the technology, in some of the decisions I'm seeing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what it means, I don't know. I think it's going to play itself out, but it almost feels like a March 2020 COVID moment, May
Wow.
2025 HR moment.
Jerry agrees. I think, I always think about Gartner's hype cycle, like the stages of the hype cycle, and we've been like squarely in the trough of disillusionment for a good while now. And that's very common, that's to be expected, but like we've been waiting for the upslope. I always think about like rapid technological advancement. There's like a wake that happens behind that, and you get like you're sort of dragging in the wake for a while. That's where we've been, and now it feels like we might find some clear water. We're
Yeah, I think I
stuff.
love that. I love that analogy, Jess. That what you just said, and I think that what's really interesting, and the fact that Dr. Crispin somewhat agreed with me, like that's validating to a point.
Yeah.
Actually, it's validating, very validating. But the clear water thing, what I'm worried about at the moment is who's the captain.
Right.
Uh,
Who
who's the
wants to be the
captain?
captain?
Right, who's the captain? What are we gonna do once we get to the clear water? Maybe we're getting out of the muck, but what direction are we going?
Yeah.
And that post I basically wrote yesterday is I felt like we're running fast, but what direction? And I think that um, it just so happens, from a scheduling standpoint, that our guest today is
Hmm.
talking about leadership. And
Yeah.
like I think that we're at a seminal moment in leadership. I think we have a leadership crisis. Uh,
Totally.
Not to over crisisize things, but I think we have a leadership crisis, and I think that what where we take this moment is going to determine the next two or three generations of what is or isn't what is called HR today.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for Charlotte to come on. I've used this expression a few times about assuming the mantle of responsibility. Like somebody literally needs to like walk under and assume the mantle of responsibility that comes with driving transformation for the business, not just HR, not just the workforce. Like this is a forecasting and a data and a design opportunity. The tech is there. What do we do with it? There are decisions to be made around that. Who do we intend to bring along? How do we support this? Does HR own it? Yeah, step under the mantle. You absolutely can and should, but that takes a lot of partnership.
And I think that can is a very important word you just used there. Should is a
Yeah,
very important word there. The question is will.
right.
The question is will. And I think that's where leadership comes into play. Charlotte, how are you?
So well, lovely to see you both.
Oh, it's so good to see you
Welcome.
too. It was so like I actually saw your I'm not going to say better half,
Good.
but it's not. It's your other half.
Other half.
Yes, last week, looking dapper as you do, as always. You two are both very, very, very well dressed. Uh, but at the same time, your aura is so much more positive than his. It's great to have you. He's never gonna let me live that down.
No, that's funny. Thank you so much for the invite. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah. So
Congratulations on your new book, by the way. Mine is ordered, delivery date June 3rd. I splurged on a hardcover. I can't wait to dive in, and I love the topic. Love the topic. How did you arrive at this, the need for this book?
So I did a thesis. I went back to university when I left SAP a couple of years ago. Went back to university and did a thesis on reputation. And when I came out, I enjoyed the thesis process very much, the research, the interviewing. But I knew that I didn't want to write another comms book. I think there are a lot of really good comms books out on the market, and my topic of passion is diversity. So the question I asked myself as I started to write the book was, what can leaders from diverse backgrounds learn from the tools of reputation management to land, keep, or create their dream leadership roles? And I wrote the book with a question. I didn't have a thesis, and I did a lot of interviews to try to arrive at what the answer might be.
So Charlotte, Jess and I, we spend hours, if not days, preparing for these interviews. And as part of our preparation here, we were talking a lot about the word reputation.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, like, I wonder what my reputation is. I was thinking about asking ChatGPT, or doing a poll. Actually, I'd love to see what people in the chat say about my reputation. That's actually dangerous. I shouldn't even do that. But then, of course, Charlotte, what I did is I looked up, like, what does reputation actually mean? And the definition, I'm just going to read it. It says the general belief or opinion that other people have about you. So as I was thinking about reputation and leadership and how they tie together in your book, the fact that John just called my reputation sketch. Sorry, I just had to stop laugh. I had to laugh about it. But how does reputation and leadership tie together, Charlotte? Because I think it's such a fascinating parallelism.
Yeah, sure, there is. I'd like to just slightly adjust the definition. So it's not just what other people think or say about you. It is the sum total of the history of perceptions people have of you, the expectations they have of you in the moment, and the predictions they'll have on you for the future based on your current behavior. So it's
Ooh,
multi-aspect and quite complex.
that's like
And
4D chess. Like that's much more complex than what I said, which I
yeah.
love.
And why it's important for leaders is incredibly expensive to lose. I mean, I hate to mention the CEO of Tesla, but you lose your reputation, you lose a lot of money. It's complex to manage, but it can, if it's positive, it can be portable, can take you to the next great gig. And it's that portability that for me is so important for leaders from diverse backgrounds, because right now, especially as systems are crumbling, the systems that support candidates that have a multiplicity of diversities, your reputation might be something, it might be a lifeline.
I love this. And when I read about the premise of your book, I can't help but think some of this is inherited or sort of assumed based on a lot of different things. I'm a leader of a certain demographic in a certain type of organization. I'm a woman, a man, I'm underrepresented, overrepresented. And so some of reputation management might be understanding what those preconceived notions are and either validating or correcting them. True or not true?
Yeah, absolutely. And I worked for a long time with the board of SAP, so I ran the exec comms function at SAP for several years, and I now do similar work with clients. And my work is in that validation. So, personal brand is intentional, it comes from you. It's what you want to say, it's the stories you want to tell. But I do a reputation 360. So it's like, what do the people around you say? And most importantly, do the two match? Because if there's a mismatch, that's when leaders have got a problem.
So Charlotte, I was doing an interview this morning with a group out of Europe, a media interview, and we got deep into the topic of trust, like really deep into the topic of trust. And we talked about trust in education, trust in government, trust in companies, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the follow-up questions was, how important is trust in today's world? And I just loved how, and once again, I haven't read your book, of course, but how you tie trust into this as well, and what the correlation is, I assume a tie between reputation and trust.
Yeah, so Rachel Botsman is the very well-known researcher on trust, and she says trust is reputation's closest sibling. And your reputation is made up of three things. It's your behaviors, it's your narratives, the stories, the words you use, and it's your networks. And trust fails when your narratives and your behaviors don't match. So leaders who go out and say, oh, this is a company where we believe in psychological safety and there's safety to fail, and then people fail and get fired, that is a trust gap, the say-do gap. So that's when reputation starts to get really complex. It's like, if you say things and you want to have a good reputation, make sure you behave in a way that matches.
So how much of this, I always think about brands as well in this conversation. There's also the brand, the more collective brand that could be a leadership team, it could be a department or function, the whole company itself. And so there's the individual and then there's the collective. How do those interplay?
Yeah, they really do. And as communicators and communication leads, we're always thinking, part of my role is to look after the reputation of the company. And another part of my role is to look after the reputation of the leadership team. And both feed into each other. They're inextricably linked. But it's always complex if you put on the CEO or the leadership hat, always complex for them when they're standing up to speak to an audience. Is it their reputation that's coming first? Is it the company's reputation that's coming first? And that's where it also can get murky.
So one of the things that I think is really interesting. So when when you hear people say we have a trust crisis with education, government, and corporations, um, or we have a leadership crisis, which once again, there's probably a correlation to those. How did we get here? And as Jess and I were talking a little bit before you joined about, we might actually be in a clear water space where it's time to start moving forward. Like, how do we repair our reputation
Yeah,
uh,
I mean, there are a lot
and
of
build
questions
that?
rolled up in that
Yeah,
one.
no, I'm sorry. Sorry, my brain's just going 1,000 miles a minute. That's what happens. Apologies. But when you think about reputation, and let's say that I'm in the middle of telling an entire workforce that AI is not going to replace you, but it's going to amplify you, and that AI is going to be your friend, not your foe, and I don't have a good reputation amongst my employees. Like, how do I start to think about that?
I mean, putting my exec comms hat on, I would advise that leader to not speak in large absolutes, and speak more from the heart and more emotionally, and say something like, you're probably all feeling quite scared right now.
Mm-hmm.
All seen the massive headlines. There's an AI apocalypse coming. Jobs are threatened. But these are the things I'm going to do over the next 3-6 months to ensure that jobs are safe. Like, just come from a human angle, first of all. But you did ask where trust has gone. And as part of my research, I took quite a deep look at the Edelman Trust Report over the years. And while trust in the media and political institutions keeps falling, there is still some trust in business. So the respondents to the survey see that business leaders are more trustworthy and can be trusted to lead on innovation. So what I take from that is there's enormous social pressure on CEOs and business leaders to really take the lead, show the way, innovate, explain, and always to contextualize. Explain to people why, explain to people what's happening. Because otherwise people exist in the vacuum. They attach to opinions, not facts. They become scared. So it really is, it is extremely necessary for business leaders who are thinking about these topics to provide that context, not only for their employees, but for their investors, for the media, for the communities that they serve, for their customers, future and present, to keep explaining. And that's a tough gig when you've also got a business to run.
Yeah, I love that research too. I use Edelman a lot. The fact that we trust our employers to have our backs That's a pretty general statement, but generally true. We expect our employers to have our backs, meaning if you employ me, treat me fairly, pay me well, provide what I need for me to thrive at work. You get my time and talent, and I get caretaking in return. I think the social contract of work has also been evolving, where what we actually expect from our employers when we say, I expect you to do good and to have my back. Doing good isn't just by me, it's doing good in the world. And so this whole, sort of impact of technology on jobs and people, I think we're sort of afraid to say the truth sometimes too. It might be okay to say, sure, jobs are going to be impacted, but you're going to be taken care of in the following ways. We're rushing to protect jobs when we should be rushing to protect people. And there's like a nugget of truth in there that I think we should be less afraid of, to say, guys, this is advancement. This is progress. This is what it usually looks like. This is what it's probably going to look like now, this time around. And here's how we catch the human fallout and recycle you back into a system that's better for you. We haven't been doing that. We're still not doing that. We've had a lot of time to practice. This is the moment. If May 2025 is the seminal moment Jason talks about, this is the time to articulate a more realistic, truth-telling version of what the human impact of this technological moment is probably going to look like. That would be highly trustworthy to me if somebody actually spoke the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand for leaders, it's tough. Sometimes they feel confused. They're not sure what is the right thing to say. But I think honesty imbued with empathy is truly the best way forward. And Brad is saying trust grows gradually, but it can be lost so quickly, just like a reputation.
Charlotte, what I really think, well, excuse me. I love what Jess said about taking care of people, not jobs. I really think that just took away my yellow and red. Now everything's green. And I so agree with that. And it's so fascinating because you're right, Jess. What people keep saying is, what are you doing to protect my job? What are you doing to protect my job? And it's
I
probably,
don't know what people are trying to save. Manual data entry, like, don't worry about protecting that. Protect me.
so, but I want to go back to something. So I love that. I want to come back to that, but I think we need a t-shirt. And then on the back of it, we can say Jess with the best. But I want to go back to something that Brian Summer put earlier up. And Charlotte, I'd love your thoughts on this. Trust has to be a two-way street. And sadly, too many leaders and employers demand loyalty, but do nothing to earn it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that, right? After the pandemic with the return to office mandates, you sent your employees back home. They're all in difficult circumstances, were productive, were committed, met goals, met KPIs, and now you're saying, "Oh no, that doesn't work anymore. Come back to office." I mean, you've got to recognize progress and move on with it, and move on with that, and recognize the humanity of people, that they home time and family time and flexibility. I think what it is, it's a shift from focusing on processes and focusing on outcomes. So my kids are Gen Z, starting, one of them is in a job already. And I mean, these kids can do something on Canva or on ChatGPT in a minute that would take me 5 hours to do. Does it matter how they got there? No, maybe they went for a walk, maybe they grabbed a coffee, but they met their deadline, they excelled, and they did it in a shorter time than I would have done it on.
So another thing that came up in this conversation this morning was reputation and trust at scale. And, there's an interesting role that HR has taken on at times, which is, hey, well, trust HR. You can trust HR. You can't trust your manager. Or as the person I talked to yesterday was still saying line manager. I'm like, well, what line? And they're like, well, yeah, there's not really a line. It's another old term in a lot of cases, still relevant in some. But when we think about how do you scale that? Can you scale reputation? Meaning like, hey, how do I have if I take 1,000, let me make it smaller, 100 leaders, what can I do to move 100 leaders' reputation and move it along, versus just hoping that there's one or two or three good chickens keeping
Yeah.
the pen? And whose responsibility is that? Is that the employer's responsibility, or is it a personal brand responsibility?
Look, I think if you want to move or build trust or reputation at scale for, say, a leadership team, um, you do need the vision alignment. People have to all buy in. And that's the first stumbling block, right? Because people go into the room, they all go, yeah, yeah, the vision's great. And then they walk out to their own team and go, well, that was a useless meeting and I don't agree with anything they're saying. So that's the first challenge, is to get them to believe in it. I don't think you can really scale a reputation of, say, a group of 100 people without working individually with each of them to make sure that their behaviors and narratives match and that they are using the network effect to tell their stories. And it's not my focus. So my focus always has been individuals and small leadership teams. But I
So,
understand with the HR lens that that's a very natural question to ask.
so let me do it with an individual for a second. So, Anthropic CEO, the Anthropic CEO, the maker of Claude, for those of you that haven't seen it, said that AI could wipe out 50%, 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs in 5 years. Now, for me,
Leading to unemployment of 10 to 20%.
right, there's a link. I just
Statement.
put it into the chat if you haven't seen it. Now, what does that do to his reputation in your mind as a leader? Does that make it stronger? Does it hurt? Does it announce him as a leader? What do you think about that communication style?
Look, I think leaders are going to go for headlines, particularly if it's a headline that's going to help them ship more product. So I think leaders are always going to make big, bold statements. Reputationally, it's not going to hurt in the moment necessarily. It may hurt in time. I mean, I'm not particularly bothered by that. I think as an individual communicator, I look at that and I think, well, you're making some big statements and you want to get some headlines. It feels quite opportunistic to me.
So on your Substack, which is I've been waiting to get to this this piece, I'm going to put the link into the chat that I really found interesting, which was CEOs are now also chief reputation officers. And of course, the first thing my mind went to is CRO, and I'm like, oh man, there's already a chief revenue officer. So, but like, I think this is really an interesting point, and I would love for you to expand on it a little bit as to what got you to that point, A, and then B, how many CEOs do you think are really good at this?
Yeah. So what got me to the point? I mean, in my thesis research, I interviewed CEOs and their heads of comms about how they think about reputation. And one CEO said to me, he thinks about it as vitamins, not aspirin. So he works very conscientiously on building his reputation very proactively. And that is what he calls the vitamin. So he's building a healthy immune system of a reputation.
Nice.
So that when crisis hits, because it almost inevitably does, his immune system is strong. He's built the trust with his audiences. And people are more likely to accept his word at face value when he says, things have gone wrong for this or that reason.
I love that.
And I love that proactive reputation building. I think it's incredibly important. I don't think everybody's good at it. I think people can learn. I think they're just some natural charismatic communicators. I was at SAP in the time of Bill McDermott. He just was one of those charismatic communicators. But I think it can be learned. And that relationship with the head of comms or a really good communicator does help with CEOs for building their reputation. And another thing that I talk about in the book is the idea of the reputation moat. So the moat is a common construct already. So it's what protects you as a business, your competitive advantage. And Frank Wolf, who is the co-founder of Staffbase, which is a comms tech unicorn here in Germany, he coined the idea of a reputational moat, which is you tell your stories build your strategic narrative, and your strategic narratives build your reputation to protect you in times of crisis. And I really like that idea, that it's something that you construct, you build it proactively, but it also has a protective function.
I love that. And I can absolutely see the proactive side of that for managing not just crisis, but change, which might feel like a crisis to some people. But I think there must also be business performance in that. Like, do we not lend our, give our business to companies that we trust more? I mean, there must be a customer satisfaction and a revenue growth if a business is seen consistently, a business and its leaders are seen to be consistent, authentic, transparent. I understand their movements and their decisions. I get a little bit of the why behind it. I think there's also a little bit of a safety net there in being a customer of yours, because I know where you're going, where you're thinking, where you're going. The execution follows the strategy. I know, I mean, we sit in a lot of analyst rooms, and we always ask to hear from customers because they'll validate whether or not the execution is following the lip service. And I'm saying lip service respectfully. Like, you say you're going to do something, but how is your ability to actually follow through and execute with consistency and with transparency? That's such a power move when it comes to building trust. Literally just consistency of doing thinking out loud, working out loud, that transparency and that sort of authenticity. Let me see a little bit of this. And when you make mistakes, own them, explain them, move on. And when you're successful, tell me what worked and why that was successful. So even in just terms of an everyday sort of leadership and business performance perspective, I think we have a lot of opportunity to earn trust every single day by just following through and being consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. And the researchers say, reputation is complex because it is multi-aspect. So it's the past, present, and future, and it's all the different perspectives around you. But I actually think consistency is everything. And I think that leaders are often A-type personalities. They get bored of saying the same thing over and over again. And you've got to say it as a leader 7 to 9 times before it lands with people. And they're bored after saying it twice.
Mm-hmm.
So my challenge always as an executive communicator was keep saying it.
Yeah.
Say it 10 more times. Then you can think of a new story, but just be as consistent as your personality can allow you to be.
Charlotte, one of the things I'm curious, by the way, for all of you, which is now 3 people that have texted me pictures of cats on leashes, I've seen enough. I now believe that there is such a thing as leashes for cats. I think my texts are corrupted now, but we read a lot and hear a lot about kids or teenagers and what they're doing to their reputations early now through social media and technology and things like that. And I know you have children of the same age as ours, and I'm wondering if you think that's going to change reputations and leaderships based on some of the things that people are putting online about their reputation, online, both positive and negative, compared to, like the 3 of us who probably didn't, we probably did a lot of stuff when we were younger that we wouldn't want people to know about. We wouldn't want it, well, excuse me, Charlotte, that's just you and I, not Jess. But that she was perfect. But that we wouldn't want people to know about. So do you think that this is changing based on things like Twitter, things like Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. I shouldn't even put it towards just teenagers. I guess it's the same for
Social media.
for adults as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, thank goodness there wasn't social media when I was a teenager, is all I'm going to say. But people are living their lives online, they're living their reputations out loud. I do think for the kids, that generation of kids, there's sort of two sides to it, because on the one side they're consuming a ton, but they're not all creating. And I think sometimes when we think, oh, kids, social media, we're worrying. It's a Venn diagram. Some are consuming and creating, but it's not 100% match. For those who are creating, I mean, I'm in support with them not starting too early. Just as longer you can keep your kids out of posting stuff, the better. But sure, I mean, once it's online, it's there forever. I have noticed with my kids and their friends, and this might be that they live in Europe, that they are exceedingly cautious about what they put online. They tend to consume more than they create. They're not posting a ton of videos. But I mean, they're staring at their phones a lot. So it's not that they're not digital. It's just they are cautious. But it might come with age. It might come with experience.
I think the pendulum always swings, and it always will. And I'm seeing I'm seeing a little bit of backswing now, where kids kind of, mine even a little bit younger, or as analog as they are digital and online. They don't mind unplugging. And this is too generic a statement, but I am seeing a little bit of a backswing, and they create private, friend circles. They don't share broadly, they share very exclusively. So we'll see how this, I think the pendulum always swings hard one way, and then it kind of comes back, and maybe it'll come back a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Charlotte, the other thing that you wrote on Substack that I wanted to make sure I called out, and I just put it in the chat. Reputation builds power, and power creates change.
Yeah.
And I really, that hit me hard, only because I'm so concerned about leaders and their ability to push change and influence change in organizations. So I don't know if you can expand on that any further, but I think I love, for whatever reason, when I read it, it hit me really, really hard.
Yeah, and I think I was writing that in the context of leaders who come from diverse backgrounds and diverse identities. And when I say that, please, everyone, I don't just mean race and gender. I mean, in my book, I interviewed leaders who are neurodiverse, leaders who come from LGBTQIA backgrounds. I interviewed a non-binary leader. I interviewed a trans woman who'd been a CEO as a man and now a board member as a woman. So when I talk diversities, I'm meaning the broad range of human diversity. But for diverse leaders who are maybe more challenged to get to the next powerful leadership role, reputation is such a powerful tool, because you can't argue with a stellar record of success. And two things, once those leaders reach positions of power, two things happen. First of all, they represent for those who are following them. So, a little girl sees a female prime minister and thinks that's a possibility for me. And that reputation builds a ladder for the generation behind them to follow. It's not just, oh, there's a lovely picture, somebody up there, maybe that could be me one day. That person, by building their reputation actively, builds the how. Shows the generations following how to get there. And so that's why I'm passionate about encouraging leaders to, it's not just about success, it's about talking about how you got there. It's about talking about your success, because you're giving clues. You're creating milestones or you're creating points in the road which tell the next generation how they can get there.
I love that. I think a lot about that, actually, tying this back to all of these predictions about the shifting labor market and the displacement of some jobs, creation of others. When you stir up the talent pool and think about an hourglass, the hollowing out of the middle, and now it's like sort of the falling out of the bottom. Even every technological advancement moment creates more high skill, high wage jobs, hollows out the middle, and now the cost of automation and AI is saying, well, it's actually cheaper to automate the bottom half of jobs as well. That's what that headline was all about from Anthropic. I think like 2 or 3 steps beyond this and say, okay, so if you remove this layer of jobs, then what is the on-ramp? What's the entry point? And then what do those ladders look like? I think the ladders change. And this is where HR can play a huge leadership role in a work design conversation to say, these are the talent, this is the talent pool, the demographics, these are the skills as we understand them, and we're going to forecast a little bit for the business to say, this is the supply chain we need to create for the business. You have to recreate the ladders. We're literally saying everything at the foundational level is changing, the types of jobs, who does them with what skills, what gets automated, what's left over. Please don't forget to create new career development ladders for people to understand how they get to those leadership positions, because I think the story will change, like how somebody got there 10 or 20 years ago is going to be quite different than how somebody progresses now in sort of this new age of work. Some things won't change, but some things will. And so I think that thread is really important. I hope we don't forget it. It's why I'm so passionate about all of these conversations to do with representation and equitable outcomes and caring for the human. There's a business reality to this, but there's also sort of I've been asking that we report human impact on ESG reports. There's human impact to this design opportunity we've been handed. I digress. That's my hope, that we start measuring this from a humanity standpoint.
And you know, Charlotte, I'm known to ask a hard question at the end, and it's not because I do it on purpose, because it usually takes me like 50 minutes to come up with a good question. Yeah, I'm just not as fast as Jess. But is this nature, nurture?
Mm.
Like when you think about learning and how do you learn this, you know, besides reading your book, like what do you recommend to people that want to work on their reputation, uh based on based to be a better leader, whether you're leading a big group of people? Like, I don't love the word power, so it's not because you want power, but you just want to be a better leader, even if it's of your own family.
Yeah, I think it's tell your stories. And, I think leaders get bored of getting told, oh, you need to tell stories. Storytelling is so important. Every third coach on LinkedIn is saying storytelling, but stories connect us as humans. Stories build the ladders. Stories show the way. Stories create the narrative moat. So work out what your stories are, your personal story, what moves you, what's your superpower, and then tie that into the business strategy. Because the closer your business narrative and your personal narrative are intertwined, the stronger the story is. Then the behaviors. Don't say we're an organization built on trust and then you're a fear-based organization. So you've got to think really clearly about how you behave. And then remember the network effect. If you are talking badly about people internally, just remember everything can leak now. Like there's no such thing as an internal organization anymore. That has gone. So be proud of everything you say, even behind closed doors, because it's going to leak. Talking about being always on and your reputation. So remember the network effect. Your network is digital, but it's also personal. And it's also that the way people talk about you when you're not in the room will be affected by these 3 aspects of reputation.
I love that. Jerry's buying the book, and he talked about how leadership is needed. Daryl wrote something that I have no idea how to translate, because it's in German, or I have no idea what it means, Charlotte, because it's in German. So I'll let you read it. Torin said, "Beautiful exchange, Charlotte, in street level poetry. You are a real one." So instead of German, Torin's writing street level poetry. So it's what you want? Well, you don't need to share what Daryl said.
No, I'm just going to say that Daryl has spoken to me in Afrikaans, which is very touching. I won't speak back to you in Afrikaans, Daryl, because German comes out from the Afrikaans part of my brain, but I really, really appreciate the good wishes. Thank you.
Oh, I love that.
Good. Well, hey, congratulations on the book.
Yeah.
Such a huge, huge thing to get that out there. We'll make sure we put a link in the show notes, so people can get the book. There's your LinkedIn, and hopefully people will follow you on Substack as well, because you're a prolific writer there as well. So really, really
And
appreciate
I'm going to take Tuesday off because that's when my book arrives. I'm just kidding.
Thank you, Jason.
it.
Thank you
gonna
to both
plan
of you
for
for
it.
having me. It's been so much fun.
Congratulations. And I know it sounds weird to say this, but two people said it to me after my first book. They actually said they're really proud of me.
Mm.
So I'm really proud of you. It's not meant to sound paternal, but it's one of those things where it's a labor of love. And to get it done and to get to the end is
Just
amazing.
lift it up because I am very proud.
Yes, good, good. Well, thanks again. I hope you. Thanks for staying.
Jason, before I forget, we have to play Charlotte's song, but you have to tell us why that song, and then we'll play you out to it.
Very, very quickly. It's a Gen X banger. I'm Gen X, the forgotten.
Jason's looking it up really quick.
And the song is.
I don't have the song. How am I going to find the song?
Jason gave it to you. Hang on, Charlotte, tell us the
I'll
song.
do it. I'll do it.
No, do you know Gen X is the forgotten generation? And
some people believe
it's a super cool song.
believe
It's super cool
that the
Gen X
future
iconic song.
is already written. Every path
Hold on. I will get to the song. I promise.